The rain had been falling for hours, turning the small suburban street into a blur of reflections, headlights dancing on puddles, and the air thick with the scent of wet earth. Inside a modest two-bedroom home, Daniel Carter stood in front of the mirror, tightening his tie for the 5th time. It wasn't just any evening, it was his first date in 6 years. Since the day his wife passed, the house had been filled with silence and the sound of cartoons, but never laughter that wasn't forced. Tonight felt like the beginning of something he wasn't sure he was ready for, but his little daughter Lily had pushed him into it with her innocent smile and a hand-drawn note that read, "Daddy, it's okay to smile again. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and love that finds you when you least expect it, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales, because tonight's story is about hearts learning to heal." Daniel checked the clock, 7:02 p.m. His palms were sweating, and the butterflies in his stomach felt like a storm. He hadn't been on a date since his 20s, and even though his best friend had convinced him to try an online dating app, he still wasn't sure how to act. He had matched with Emily a week ago, a woman whose messages were kind, funny, and somehow, comforting. She was a single mom too, she had said, but details were sparse. He liked that. It wasn't about showing off lives online, it was two people trying to connect again after being broken by life. When the doorbell finally rang, Daniel took a deep breath and walked toward it. The rain outside had slowed, but the night still hummed with the quiet sound of water dripping from the gutters. He opened the door, and that's when his heart froze. There she was, Emily. She looked nothing like the filtered photos he'd seen online. Not because she wasn't beautiful, but because she was real. Her long brown hair was damp from the rain, her simple navy blue dress clung softly to her frame, and her eyes, soft, brown, and tired, held the kind of stories only those who had lived through pain could understand. For a moment, Daniel's nerves settled. Then Emily smiled shyly, stepped forward slightly, and whispered something that would change everything. "My kids are in the car." Daniel blinked. The words hit him like a shockwave, unexpected, heavy, human. He wasn't prepared for that. It wasn't just a date anymore, it was real life walking right to his doorstep, with small hearts waiting outside in the cold. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The wind brushed past, carrying the soft sound of laughter from the car parked near the curb. Emily's voice trembled slightly as she added, "I didn't want to leave them alone, even for an hour. I wasn't sure what kind of man I'd meet tonight." That honesty, raw and unguarded, broke through Daniel's hesitation. He smiled gently, nodded, and said she could bring them in. Within minutes, 2 children, a boy around 10 and a little girl barely 5, stepped inside, shy and quiet, clutching their mother's hands. Daniel's daughter, Lily, peeked from behind the couch, curious and cautious. What started as a blind date turned into something completely different that night. The kids played with Lily's toys while Daniel and Emily sat at the dining table, sipping lukewarm coffee. The conversation started awkwardly but soon turned into the kind of flow that comes from shared pain. Both had lost someone they loved. Emily's husband had left when their youngest was still a baby, unable to handle the weight of responsibility. Daniel had lost his wife to illness, and with her, a part of himself. As they talked, there was no pretension, no performance, just two souls comparing scars, one story at a time. Emily admitted she almost canceled the date. Her life was too messy, she said. 2 jobs, bills that never stopped, and the constant fear of not being enough. Daniel nodded, understanding more than words could say. He told her about the nights he fell asleep on the couch because the bed felt too big without his wife, and how Lily would sometimes climb next to him, whispering, "It's okay, Daddy. I'm here." As hours passed, the house felt alive again. The children's laughter mixed with the sound of rain outside, and Daniel felt something stir deep inside him, a warmth he hadn't known he still had. When it was time for them to leave, Emily apologized again for bringing her kids, but Daniel shook his head. "You brought your whole heart," he said softly. "That's what matters." The next few weeks changed everything. Daniel and Emily began to see each other more often, not in restaurants or fancy spots, but in parks, coffee shops, and small moments of shared chaos. Their children grew close, building forts in Daniel's living room and calling each other team family. Daniel found himself smiling again, not because life was perfect, but because, for the first time in years, it felt real. Still, love after loss isn't easy. One evening, Emily hesitated when Daniel reached for her hand. "What if it doesn't work?" she whispered. "Our kids have already lost too much." Daniel looked into her eyes, the same eyes that had faced so much yet kept believing, and said, "Then we'll teach them that even when things break, love can build again." There were days of doubt, when work piled up, or memories of the past crept in. But they held on, not to a fantasy, but to small, honest moments, school pickups, homemade dinners, shared laughter over burnt pancakes, and quiet nights when both fell asleep on the couch, kids sprawled across them like tiny anchors keeping them grounded. Months later, Daniel stood again in front of his mirror, the same one from that rainy night, but this time, he wasn't nervous. He straightened his tie with a steady hand because tonight, he wasn't waiting for a date. He was waiting for family. Emily and her kids were moving in. When the doorbell rang, he opened it, and there she was again, smiling softly, holding the same small hands. "My kids are in the car," she said teasingly, and Daniel laughed, the kind of laugh that comes from deep within a healed heart. That night, as they all sat around the dinner table, the house glowed with a warmth Daniel hadn't felt in years. Laughter, stories, love, it was all there. He looked around and realized that sometimes, the family we dream of doesn't arrive perfectly packaged. It comes with broken edges, loud laughter, and mismatched hearts that somehow fit perfectly together. Life doesn't always give second chances, but when it does, it often knocks softly on the door, sometimes holding a cup of coffee, sometimes whispering, "My kids are in the car." If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales, where real stories remind us that love, kindness, and hope can find us when we least expect it. Speech Balloon special request: drop a comment below and tell us, do you believe everyone deserves a second chance at love and happiness?